you will be very critical, saying, okay, big names, Belevsky, Timman, Hübner, Fischer, Geller, what is for us? So how can we improve? We should just learn it, play it through our computers, download everything, but everything is exhausted. All that could be found had been already found by these great players. There is a rationale in this way of thinking, but you will be dead wrong. Because eventually, the line with a bishop e7 was refuted. I have to be very cautious saying refuted, because refutation in Najdorf means that is refuted today. Call it temporarily refuted, although the refutations dated by 2003 are far more sophisticated than any refutations found in Fischer's time. By the way, we'll remember that on those old good days, strong players, they used to say that we studied this line very extensively, we know everything about that, we actually saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and that's the only way to go. As we know, any computer program today could make a laughing stock of such big statements. And if you know how to use a machine, you could find a lot of mistakes in those old analyses. Moreover, you can find your own ways of getting through and making immense contribution to the opening theory. So after bishop e2 h5, the crucial game that was played recently in 2003 featured two little-known players. I have to confess I never heard these names. Gubaidulin, Birukov. And the players with white suddenly play rook f1. And after f5, natural move, rook f3. And I don't know why, but black lost very quickly. Queen takes a2, rook fb3. Quite amazing. Now black queen is also cut, but in a very strange fashion. F takes e4 and queen c3. This game was extensively analyzed by Emil Sutovsky, who was quite surprised that such a great contribution to the line that was introduced by Bobby Fischer and analyzed by all great players of that time, and for next 30 years was a subject of attention of leading players in the world. The greatest contribution was made by a very little known player. So that's why I have no doubt that if you take this challenge seriously, you can also make a very viable contribution. The floor is yours. But now we have just to look for another defense that black employed in this position. Instead of playing h5, instead of playing bishop e7, black could take on a2. That looks quite horrible, because instead of developing the pieces and protecting its queen, black takes on a2. I could open a little secret that when I prepared this line for World Championship match against Nigel, queen takes a2 was my choice. In fact, it was not exactly my choice, because it was recommended by a great expert on this line, my old friend from Baku, Elmar Magiramov, who helped me to recognize many of Najdorf's ideas, and he always, from 80s, stood firm that queen a2 was a better move, better than bishop e7. So, he could predict the future. And I prepared queen takes a2, and I saw that we had a very good job. But of course later, after I tried to check some of my analysis in 1993 with computers, in 2000 and 2001 and 2003, I was unpleasantly surprised. Probably I was lucky that Nigel didn't try the line, because the number of mistakes we made was, by today modern computer standards, was outrageous. So rook d1, bishop e7, bishop e2. Another move is bishop d3, but that will be a brand new game. And bishop e2 probably is more poisonous, because it keeps d file open. Castle, castle. So I have also just My apologies, that I should probably tell that after knight takes, queen takes a2, knight takes f6, king f7 is bad for white, because after rook b3, black queen is centralized. King e2, queen d4, queen g5, e4, and only idea of white to bring rook on f3 didn't work, and so suddenly white king is also in trouble, and black had number of extra pawns and 2 bishops. So that will be over very quickly. So back to the positions. Both sides castled, and now black had to make some tough decisions. How to defend its king, which is facing waves of attacks. White rook goes on f3, and then it has options on g3 or h3, and of course white queen is just ready to go on h6. And just don't forget that this rook on d1 is also well positioned. It cuts black king from any potential escape route to the queen side, and black queen is far away, and it just doesn't come quickly to good square somewhere on c7 or better even f7. So black is facing certain problems, and again there were many games played, there were a number of moves that were tested, and eventually black came up with the best defensive resource, rook a7. I recommend you to remember this maneuver. It's very important in Najdorf's line when black plays rook a7, and this rook from a7, it protects the 7th rank, and also in certain situations it's ready to join black's king and to defend it against the overwhelming enemy's force. So there are endless analyses just to show you what kind of dangers blacks are facing, and of course how these dangers could be confronted in a very skillful fashion. If you spend time analyzing it, you may come up with a forced draw. And recently I was lucky to make such a draw by spending very little time against Paco Vallejo. So who played rook f3, king h8, rook g3, rook d7, queen h6, rook f7, queen h5, rook d1, bishop takes d1. Looks terrible for black. Just for a moment, if rook goes back on f8, then queen g4 and mate. So, and how you can protect the rook? There is no other way. But it's time to bring our queen back to the game. Queen a5. So you won. It's mate. Suddenly black created one threat, and white has to play king f1 because if white tried to play here h3, then suddenly black plays queen c7, and this rook is actually protected. It's another X-ray, because taking this rook is impossible because of bishop c5 check. So after queen a5, white has to play king f1, and then queen d8, queen takes f7, take on d1, king f2, queen takes c2, and now king f3, queen d1 is the same, and so on. After king e3, bishop c5 check, knight takes c5, queen takes c5. It's a draw by perpetual. So king d2, queen f2, and white king can't escape. Did you remember the line? It took quite a few hours for me just to remember all the tricks that we should learn from white side to attack and from black side to defend. And I'm not surprised that many players, many strong players that included Najdorf in their repertoire, now after f4, queen b6, queen d2, they are actually back to the old line. Knight c6, castle, exchange on d4, rook d4, bishop e7, and they believe that it's better to defend this endgame, which is probably slightly inferior for black, than to memorize these endless lines where landmines could explode at every wrong step. Makes sense. But I don't think that one should include Najdorf in his or her repertoire and to play knight c6 at move 8. It's if you play queen b6, I guess you should rather take pawn on b2 and spend some time analyzing this position. As you could see, your efforts will be rewarded, whether you play white or black. And if you do good homework, you will be ahead of your opponent. Just one step, even half step. In Najdorf, it's always enough. Your move.